We are cruising right on through to the SEC championship game here with my buddy Cole Cubelic today with SEC Network. And Cole, we're talking about Auburn, we're talking about Georgia, we're talking about the rematch in the SEC championship game. Auburn beat them 3 weeks ago, 40-17. Can they do it again? Why or why not? Ready, go.
I think Auburn can beat Georgia again, but I think this is a much more dangerous game. Obviously, you're not going to have home field advantage, something that I think really affected Jake Fromm, a young Georgia quarterback. And what's the status of Kerryon Johnson? We don't really know what that's going to be yet. And even if he does play, can he be as effective as he was against Georgia a few weeks ago, as he was against Alabama last Saturday? Those are big questions. And there aren't many individuals on any college football team that if you removed one player would truly change my thought process on the game and what I thought the outcome would be. Kerryon Johnson is one of those guys. I remember when we sat here after I worked sideline for the Ole Miss game, and I told you that I really saw not only the offense sort of circling around him, but that team really just kind of he was becoming the centerpiece of the Auburn football team, and I think he's been that. When he's effective, he is that. So if he's not there, I think the Auburn game plan changes, and you don't just plug and go with Cam Martin or Malik Miller because they aren't the same kind of guy. And it's not a knock on them. It's just Kerryon Johnson's a special back, and they're not able to replicate the things that he is. So I think Jarrett Stidham becomes that much more important because, in my opinion, you run the football through the air. You take advantage of his intermediate accuracy, a lot of short, quick ball distribution, maybe line up Ryan Davis in the backfield, line up some receivers in the slots, do some different things with quick ball distribution, get it out, essentially run the ball through the air is what I think Gus Malzahn and Chip Lindsey would have to do minus a Kerryon Johnson.
Yeah, because with Kerryon Johnson, I think that he's been able to take so many reps and take a pounding all season long. Malik Miller, those guys aren't ready to do that. I don't think they're set up, prepared, and been seasoned enough to go in there and take the reps that Kerryon has. Now, let me ask you this question. When you're a Georgia team that obviously got defeated, as Coach Malzahn has said very handily against this Auburn team, going into this matchup, you said this is going to be a more dangerous matchup. How much of that has to do with the fact that they've broken down this team, that they've played this team and been able to really have more tangible film to go up against and prepare for?
Yeah, I don't know how much of it is really about film. I think if you're Kirby Smart and you're Jim Chaney and you're Mel Tucker, the two coordinators for Georgia, you take the positives that you had against this team last time and you go out of your way to repeatedly show that to this group this entire week. This is what we had success with. This is what we were this close to having success with. So we're going to go back to that, but we're going to make this little change, and this is why it's going to work this time.
Yeah.
I think Kirby Smart understands that. His staff understands that. One thing that would concern me as an Auburn fan is the deep shots that Georgia was really close on. I mean, Georgia took a couple shots down the field, whether it was a drop pass, whether it was maybe a little bit overthrown. Those plays were really close the last time around. So if Georgia takes the top off of that Auburn defense early in that game, how different is the rest of the football game? We don't really know, but I think Jake Fromm will take those shots. And I think you'll see, if there's one thing that I love about Jim Chaney, is he can mix up the run game and match the run game better than anybody else in the league. And Brian Dable did it really well with Alabama this year. I think Chip and Gus have done a good job with it at Auburn this year. But you will see some variation to the Georgia run game against Auburn. And I think they've had time to work on it because they've known they were going to be in this game. They probably had a pretty good idea of one of the two defenses that they were going to face. And the big advantage for Georgia is you knew it was going to be Alabama or Auburn. Structurally, those defenses are built the same way. So from an X's and O's standpoint, you can begin to implement your game plan for what it's going to be against either one of those teams. So that is advantage Georgia.
Okay. Last thing here, if there's one thing that Georgia's better at and one thing that Auburn's better at, where do you place that?
Well, one thing Georgia's better at is just depth at running back.
Okay.
And if they were to lose someone, if they were to get somebody tired, if it turns into that kind of a football game, Georgia has more options. The biggest advantage for me that Auburn has in this game that they had the last time they played is even though Georgia's offensive line has played very good football this season, they are not a dominant group. They are not a group that physically imposes their will on you. It's not to say that they're not good players and they haven't done a good job. They have. It's just the style that they play is a bad matchup for what Auburn brings to the table with their front seven, in particular their defensive line. Derrick Brown, Marlon Davidson, those guys are very physical at the point of attack, and Georgia doesn't deal with that very well. So how do they manage the Auburn, especially front four and front seven this time around, because it's going to have to be a little bit different?
See, this is why we talked to Cole Cubelic. Love the insight. Lots of knowledge up in there. Whoop, whoop.